My mother looked me straight in the eye and said, "Francine, we only have 4 tickets to Hawaii. Your daughter Melody can't come." What she didn't know was that I'd already seen the email confirmation on my brother's phone showing 8 tickets, not 4. The lie rolled off her tongue so easily that Tuesday afternoon in her pristine kitchen, the same kitchen where she'd taught me that family meant everything. Dorothy Peterson, 62 years old, retired bank teller, the woman who had raised 3 children on the importance of truth and loyalty, was lying to my face about my 14-year-old daughter being excluded from her uncle's wedding. I am Francine Peterson Clark, 38 years old, and I've spent my entire career as a dental hygienist fixing smiles while hiding my own pain behind one. That day in my mother's kitchen would become the moment that changed everything between my family and me, though it would take a full decade for them to understand the price of their deception. My daughter Melody was the light of my life, an honor roll student who played violin in the school orchestra and volunteered at the animal shelter every weekend. She had been counting down the days to her Uncle Raymond's wedding in Maui for 3 months, practicing her walk as a junior bridesmaid in our backyard, saving every penny from babysitting jobs to buy the perfect gift for the uncle she adored. Raymond, my younger brother at 35, worked as an insurance adjuster and had always been the golden child in our family. He could do no wrong in our mother's eyes, and his engagement to Bethany, a pharmaceutical sales representative from a wealthy Shaker Heights family, had been treated like a royal announcement in the Peterson household. My older sister Judith, 40 years old and a successful real estate agent, had married into a ready-made family 5 years earlier. Her stepchildren, Trevor and Amber, 16 and 13 respectively, had been absorbed into our family with the kind of enthusiasm my mother seemed incapable of showing toward her only biological grandchild. The Hawaii wedding was supposed to be the event that brought us all together, a celebration on the beaches of Maui that October, paid for by Bethany's generous parents who owned a chain of medical supply companies. Every family dinner since the engagement announcement had been filled with talk of sunset ceremonies, luau's, and the beauty of the islands. But there I sat, watching my mother pour coffee into her grandmother's china cups, the ones she only brought out for serious conversations, as she dismantled my daughter's dreams with the precision of someone who had been planning this conversation for weeks. "You understand, don't you, Francine?" she said, her voice carrying that false sweetness she used when she expected compliance. "These destination weddings are so expensive, and Raymond and Bethany want to keep things intimate. The wedding that would destroy our family, masquerading as the event that would unite us, had officially begun its countdown, and I was the only one who could see the bomb my mother had just armed with her lie. The year was 2014, and life in our suburban Cleveland home had finally found its rhythm after years of struggle. Our small 3-bedroom ranch house on Maple Street wasn't much to look at from the outside, with its fading blue siding and the front porch that creaked when you stepped on the 3rd board. But inside, Melody and I had created something beautiful. Every wall held evidence of our journey together. Her kindergarten handprints in yellow paint, school photos documenting her transformation from gap-toothed 1st grader to poised 8th grade honor student, and the collection of certificates that proved she was thriving despite growing up without a father. I'd been raising Melody alone since her father, Derek, walked out when she was 3 years old. He'd left on a Thursday morning saying he was going to work and simply never came back. The divorce papers arrived 2 months later from Arizona, where he'd apparently decided to start fresh with a 22-year-old bartender named Trish. The child support checks came sporadically for the first year, then stopped altogether. I never pursued it legally because I was too proud and too exhausted to beg a man to care about his own daughter. My work as a dental hygienist at Bright Smiles Dental provided steady income and decent insurance, though it meant long days on my feet and coming home with aching hands from holding instruments all day. Dr. Patel had been flexible when Melody was younger, letting me adjust my schedule for school events and sick days, understanding that I was all she had. The job wasn't glamorous, but it kept us stable, and stability mattered more than anything else. Despite the challenges, or maybe because of them, Melody and I had built something unshakable together. Friday nights were sacred movie time, complete with homemade pizza and whatever candy was on sale at Giant Eagle that week. Sunday mornings meant pancakes shaped like whatever animal she requested, though by 14 she'd graduated from bunnies and bears to requesting abstract art that always ended up looking like blobs. She'd laugh at my failed attempts while drowning them in syrup, and those laughs were worth more than any masterpiece. My family had always been complicated in ways that outsiders couldn't see. Growing up as the middle child between perfect Judith and charming Raymond meant I'd learned early how to make myself small, to avoid confrontation, to smooth over tensions before they exploded. Our childhood home in Lakewood had been a battlefield disguised as suburban paradise, where achievements were currency, and our mother's approval was the prize we all competed for but never quite won. Dorothy Peterson ruled our family with an iron fist wrapped in a velvet glove, dispensing affection like a banker, approving loans, always, with conditions attached. Family first, she'd say at every gathering, though her definition of family seemed to shift depending on who was in favor that week. She'd been a bank teller for 35 years at KeyBank, and she ran our family like she ran her window. Everything had to balance. Every emotional transaction recorded and held for future reference. My father, Harold, had perfected the art of invisibility in his own home. A mail carrier for the Postal Service, he'd spent 40 years walking the same routes, coming home to disappear behind his newspaper and later his iPad, emerging only for meals and mandatory family functions. His silence wasn't cruel, just complete, as if he'd decided long ago that having opinions in Dorothy's house was more trouble than it was worth. When Raymond had announced his engagement to Bethany at our 4th of July barbecue, the entire dynamic of our family shifted. The golden child was getting married, and not just married, but married to money. Bethany Hutchinson came from the kind of Shaker Heights family that had memorial wings at hospitals and their names on scholarship funds. The engagement ring on her finger cost more than my annual salary, a fact my mother mentioned to everyone who would listen. That July afternoon, Melody had been helping me bring out the potato salad when Raymond made his announcement. The backyard erupted in congratulations, and I watched my daughter's face light up when Raymond pulled her aside later. "Melody, my favorite girl," he'd said, lifting her off the ground in a hug that made her squeal. "How would you like to be a junior bridesmaid? Can't get married without my only niece up there with me." She'd practically floated for weeks after that, researching Hawaiian flowers online, practicing walking in heels on our back deck while balancing a book on her head, saving every dollar from babysitting the Henderson twins next door to buy something special for her uncle. The wedding had given her something to look forward to, something that made her feel chosen and important in a family where I'd always worried she felt like an afterthought. I sat at Mom's kitchen table, the same mahogany table where we'd had countless family dinners, watching her pour coffee into her good china cups with the tiny pink roses around the rim. She only brought out this set for serious conversations, like when she'd told us about Dad's heart surgery or when Judith announced her divorce from her first husband. The afternoon sun slanted through her lace curtains, creating patterns on the tablecloth that reminded me of prison bars. "Francine, there's been a change in the wedding plans," she began, stirring sugar into her cup with deliberate slowness that made my stomach tighten. "Raymond and Bethany have decided to keep it very small, immediate family only." "That's fine," I said, wrapping my hands around the warm cup to stop them from shaking. "Melody and I don't need anything fancy. We're just happy to be there for Raymond." "You don't understand." She set down her spoon with a sharp clink against the saucer. "We only have 4 tickets. One for me, one for your father, one for you, and one for Judith." The words hit me like ice water. "What about Melody? And what about Judith's stepkids, Trevor and Amber?" "The children aren't invited. It's an adult-only ceremony." Her eyes stayed fixed on her coffee cup, refusing to meet mine. "You know how these destination weddings are. Very expensive, very limited. Bethany's family is already being so generous." Something felt fundamentally wrong about this conversation. Mom's tell had always been her left hand. She'd tap her ring finger against the table when she was lying, a nervous habit from childhood that she never outgrew. Right now, that finger was creating a rapid rhythm against the mahogany, a drumbeat of deception. "Mom, Melody's been preparing for months. She's Raymond's only biological niece. He asked her to be a junior bridesmaid." "Plans change, Francine. You of all people should understand that." The reference to Derek leaving stung exactly as she'd intended. Besides, it's probably better this way. Melody won't have to miss school, and you know how bored teenagers get at adult events. She's not just any teenager. She's his niece. She's your granddaughter. And Trevor and Amber aren't going either, she interrupted, her voice taking on that sharp edge that meant the discussion was closing. Judith understands. Why can't you? Why do you always have to make things difficult? The next day, I ran into Judith at the grocery store. She was in the sunscreen aisle loading her cart with bottles of SPF 50, chattering away on her phone through her Bluetooth earpiece as she shopped. "Can you believe they're letting us bring the kids to Hawaii?" she said to whoever was on the other end, not noticing me at first. "Trevor's never been on a plane. He's so excited. And Amber's already planning her outfit for the wedding. She wants to wear that lavender dress we bought for Easter." My heart shattered into pieces so small I could feel them in my bloodstream. When Judith finally noticed me, she ended her call and pulled me into a hug. "Francine, have you started packing yet? I'm going crazy trying to figure out what the kids need for a week in Maui. Did Melody decide on her dress color? Bethany said the junior bridesmaids could pick between coral and seafoam." I stood there, frozen between aisles of sunscreen and after-sun lotion, realizing the depth of my mother's betrayal. "Judith, Mom told me kids weren't invited, that it was adults only." Her face went through a series of expressions, confusion to disbelief to uncomfortable realization. "That can't be right. Raymond specifically said all the kids were welcome. Bethany's nephews are in the wedding party. There are going to be at least 12 kids there." That evening, I called Raymond directly. My hands shook as I dialed his number, hoping against hope that this was all a misunderstanding. "Hey, sis," he answered cheerfully, the sounds of a baseball game playing in the background. "Melody all set for the trip? Bethany found the cutest junior bridesmaid dresses online. She wanted me to check if Melody prefers coral or seafoam. Ray, Mom said there were only 4 tickets, that Melody couldn't come." The background noise disappeared as he muted the television. The silence stretched so long I checked my phone to see if we'd been disconnected. "Mom said Melody had some important school thing," he finally said, his voice smaller now, uncertain. "That you'd decided it was best she stayed home. Something about a violin competition?" "There's no competition. She lied to both of us." "Francine, Look, Mom's helping with the wedding costs and she has opinions about things. Maybe it's better if we don't rock the boat right now." The betrayal was complete. My brother, the uncle who'd taught Melody to ride a bike, who'd called her his favorite girl in the world just 2 months ago, had just chosen our mother's money over my daughter's heart. That night, I sat on the edge of Melody's bed as she showed me pictures of Hawaiian flowers on her tablet, her face illuminated by the screen's glow in her darkened room. She'd bookmarked dozens of websites about traditional lei making, and her notebook was filled with sketches of flower combinations she wanted to try. "I want to make Uncle Ray a special lei," she said, scrolling through images of orchids and plumeria. "Something nobody else will have. Did you know that different flowers mean different things? Orchids represent love and beauty, and male leaves are for respect. I thought I could combine them." Each word she spoke drove the knife deeper into my chest. I looked around her room at the evidence of her excitement, the dress she'd picked out hanging on her closet door, the new sandals she'd bought with her babysitting money, the Hawaii travel guide from the library with sticky notes marking pages about Maui's best beaches. "Sweetheart," I said carefully, taking her hand in mine, "what if we planned our own special trip instead? Just you and me? We could go somewhere you've always wanted to visit." Her face fell slightly, the tablet dropping to her lap. "But what about Uncle Ray's wedding? We already have our flights booked, don't we?" The lie I'd been preparing died in my throat. I couldn't do what my mother had done. I couldn't look into those trusting brown eyes and destroy her faith in me too. "Baby, there's something I need to tell you. Sometimes adults make choices that don't make sense, and they're not always fair." The realization dawned slowly in her eyes. That particular pain of understanding you're not wanted somewhere you thought you belonged. "I'm not invited, am I?" "It's not about you, baby. It's about complicated family things that have nothing to do with who you are or how much you're loved. Trevor and Amber are going, aren't they?" Her voice was small but not surprised. She'd always been perceptive, too smart for the comfort of adults who wanted to protect her from harsh truths. I couldn't lie to her. I just nodded, watching as she processed this information with a composure that no 14-year-old should have to possess. What happened next broke and rebuilt me simultaneously. My daughter straightened her shoulders, lifted her chin in a gesture I recognized as my own, and said, "Then we'll plan something better, Mom. Just us. We don't need them to have an adventure." "Melody, you have every right to be angry." "I am angry," she said simply. "But being angry won't change anything. Grandma Dorothy doesn't want me there, and Uncle Ray won't fight for me. That tells me everything I need to know about where I stand in this family." That night, after Melody had fallen asleep, I made two decisions that would define the next decade of our lives. First, I would go to that wedding alone, say nothing, and keep the peace. Second, I would remember everything. I called my mother the next morning. "I'll come to the wedding. Melody understands she can't attend." "Oh, Francine, I knew you'd be reasonable," she gushed, relief evident in her voice. "It's really for the best. These destination weddings can be overwhelming for young people." "Of course, Mom. Family first, right?" The October trip to Hawaii arrived faster than expected. I wore the dress my mother had insisted on approving, smiled in every photo, and played the role of the supportive sister. During the ceremony on that pristine Maui beach, I watched Trevor and Amber serve as unofficial ring bearers, while Bethany's young cousins scattered flower petals. I said nothing. At the reception, when Dorothy gave a toast about the importance of family unity and how blessed they were to have everyone they loved present, I raised my glass and said nothing. When Raymond asked why Melody hadn't called to congratulate him, I told him she'd been busy with school and said nothing more. When Judith posted dozens of photos on Facebook with hashtags like Family First and All the Kids in Paradise and Perfect Wedding, I liked every single one and said nothing. But I saved everything. Every photo showing the children who were supposedly not invited, every lying toast about complete family unity, every Facebook post that documented the fabrication. I created a folder on my computer labeled Hawaii 2014 and filled it with evidence of their deception. Back home, Melody had spent that week with her best friend Emma's family. When I returned, she didn't ask about the wedding. Instead, she showed me the acceptance letter she'd received for a competitive summer program at Case Western Reserve University. "I decided I'm going to focus on my future," she said. "The people who want me in their lives will make room for me. The ones who don't were never really family anyway." I pulled her into gag, my arms feeling the shift in our relationship. We weren't just mother and daughter anymore. We were a team, united against a world that had shown us exactly where we stood, and determined to build something better from the ashes of what we'd lost. 10 years passed, like chapters in a book I was writing with invisible ink. Melody graduated from Columbia University with a law degree, passed the bar exam on her first try, and built a career as a civil rights attorney fighting for families who'd been marginalized by systems that should have protected them. When she got engaged to Thomas, a pediatric surgeon who treated her like she hung the moon, she planned her wedding with the meticulous attention to detail that had made her such a formidable lawyer. "Mom," she said one evening in July 2024, spreading seating charts across my kitchen table, the same table where we'd eaten countless dinners for two. "I need to tell you something about the family table arrangements." The wedding was set for September 14th at the Cleveland Museum of Art. 250 guests, black tie optional with a cocktail hour in the atrium and reception in the grand ballroom. Nothing like Raymond's beach affair, but 3 times the size and infinitely more meaningful. Thomas's family had embraced us completely. His parents, both professors at Oberlin, had been more present in the past 3 years than my own family had been in the past decade. The day arrived with perfect September weather, crisp and clear, with leaves just beginning to turn gold. Dorothy swept into the venue wearing a designer St. John dress she'd bragged about for months, navy blue with gold trim that she'd told everyone cost more than most people's mortgage payments. Raymond came with Bethany and their 3 children, twins Madison and Mason, age 7, and 5-year-old Sophia. Judith arrived with her husband Carl and the now adult Trevor and Amber, both in their 20s and looking uncomfortable in their formal wear. The cocktail hour was in full swing when Dorothy cornered me near the bar, her voice carrying over the jazz quartet. Francine, this is absolutely stunning. You must have spent a fortune. Where are we sitting? I told the Hendersons we'd be at the family table, and Margaret Wellington is dying to meet Melody's grandmother. Oh, I'll show you, I said, leading them into the reception hall where the tables were set with crystal and gold chargers, centerpieces of white orchids and roses reaching toward the painted ceiling. The family table was exactly where it should be, positioned close to the head table with a perfect view of the dance floor. 8 place cards sat arranged on gold card holders, the calligraphy pristine. Dorothy reached for one, then froze. The cards read, Mr. and Mrs. Henderson, Mr. and Mrs. Cox, Dr. and Mrs. Robertson, Mr. and Mrs. Clark. There must be a mistake. Dorothy's voice pitched higher. This is marked as Table 2, but these aren't our names. Where's Peterson? Where's my place card? There's no mistake, I said calmly, my voice steady as a judge delivering a verdict. Those are Thomas's aunts and uncles, his actual family. But where's our table? Raymond had joined us now, Bethany trailing behind with their children. I pointed across the vast ballroom to Table 27, tucked in the back corner, partially obscured by a pillar and adjacent to the service door where waiters would be coming and going all night. You're over there. It's the table we reserved for distant relatives, and plus ones we felt obligated to invite. Raymond's face flushed red. Francine, this is ridiculous. We're your family. I'm Melody's uncle. I'm walking her down the aisle since her father isn't here. Actually, no. Thomas's father is walking her down the aisle. You know, the man who's been to every graduation, every law school mock trial, every important moment for the past 3 years. This is about Hawaii, Dorothy hissed, her carefully applied makeup starting to crack along with her composure. You're being petty and vindictive about something that happened 10 years ago. It was just a wedding. Hawaii? I pulled out my phone, showing them a saved screenshot I'd kept for this exact moment. The old Facebook post of Trevor and Amber playing on the beach at the reception, and below it, Melody's comment from her high school account. Looks fun. Wish I could have been there. You mean the wedding where there were only 4 tickets? I asked. The one where children weren't allowed. Funny how Trevor and Amber seemed to manage just fine at that adults-only ceremony. Funny how 12 other children were there. Funny how you looked me in the eye and lied about my daughter being unwanted. Melody appeared then, radiant in her wedding dress, a vision in ivory silk with her hair swept up and her grandmother's pearls around her neck. Not Dorothy's pearls, but Thomas's grandmother's, a woman who'd welcomed her with open arms. Grandma Dorothy. Uncle Ray, she said, her smile professional and distant, the same smile she used in court. So glad you could make it. I hope you enjoy the reception. Table 27 has a lovely view of the service entrance. Very convenient if you need to leave early. The reception continued beautifully without them at the center of it. Dorothy and Raymond's family spent the evening at Table 27, picking at their salmon and watching from across the room as Thomas's family gave speeches that brought tears to everyone's eyes. They left before the cake cutting, Dorothy's designer dress disappearing through the same service door she'd been forced to watch all evening. Judith, to her credit, came to find me during the father-daughter dance. She stood beside me as we watched Thomas's father spin Melody around the dance floor to My Girl by the Temptations, both of them laughing when he attempted a dip. I never knew, Judith said quietly, her voice thick with emotion, about Melody and Hawaii. Mom told me you'd decided not to bring her. She said you thought it would be too expensive, that you were being practical. I know, I replied, keeping my eyes on my daughter's glowing face. But you never asked. None of you ever asked why a 14-year-old girl suddenly stopped calling her favorite uncle, why she never came to another family gathering, why she spent every holiday for 10 years with her father's family in Arizona instead. Derek's family? But he abandoned her. His mother reached out when Melody was 15. She'd never known she had a granddaughter until she found us on social media. Turns out Derek had lied to them too, but when they learned the truth, they drove here from Phoenix to meet her. They've never missed another milestone since. The truth was that Hawaii lie had freed us in ways I never expected. Melody and I had built our own family over those 10 years. Friends who became sisters, mentors who became parents, chosen aunts and uncles who never once questioned whether she deserved a seat at their table. Emma's parents, who'd taken Melody in during that Hawaii trip, became her honorary grandparents. My supervisor at the dental practice, Dr. Patel, walked her through college applications and wrote recommendation letters that helped her get into Columbia. 3 months after the wedding, Dorothy called me. Her voice sounded older, fragile, in a way I'd never heard before. For the first time in my 62 years of knowing her, my mother offered a real apology. "I thought keeping the peace was more important than the truth," she admitted. "I thought if Melody was hurt quietly, it would be better than Raymond being hurt loudly. Bethany's family had money, and I wanted to impress them. I sacrificed my granddaughter for appearances." "And now?" I asked. "Now I have 3 grandchildren I've never really met, Raymond's kids." Melody told them the truth at the wedding about why their cousin never came around. Children understand fairness in a way adults forget. They don't want to know someone who could exclude a child from a family celebration. "What do you want me to say, Mom?" "Nothing. I don't deserve forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I understand now. Every family photo on my wall is a lie, because the most important person is missing. I chose 4 tickets to Hawaii over my granddaughter, and that choice cost me everything that actually mattered. I wish I could say we reconciled, that the family healed, but some breaks can't be mended with apologies. They can only teach." Melody's wedding wasn't about revenge. It was about recognition. For 10 years, I'd taught her through my silence that keeping the peace mattered more than her pain. At her wedding, she taught me that some tables aren't worth sitting at, no matter how close to the front they are. Today, Melody has 2 beautiful children who call Thomas's parents Grandma and Grandpa. 4-year-old James and 2-year-old Lily know nothing of Dorothy, Raymond, or the Peterson family. That's a choice, just like Hawaii was a choice. The difference is, this time, the truth sits at the head table, and the lies are relegated to the corner, behind a pillar, watching the celebration from a distance they created themselves. Last week, Melody argued a case before the Ohio Supreme Court, fighting for a grandmother's visitation rights after she'd been excluded from her grandchildren's lives. She won. After the verdict, she called me. "Mom, do you think I should reach out to them? Give them another chance?" "That's your choice, baby. But whatever you decide, make it from strength, not obligation." "I learned that from you," she said. "You taught me that real family shows up, includes you, fights for your place at their table. Everyone else is just relatives." The 4 tickets to Hawaii cost Dorothy 8 seats at her granddaughter's table and 3 grandchildren who will never know her name. Some prices, once paid, can never be refunded. Some lies, once told, become the only truth that matters. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video and share it with someone who understands that family isn't about blood, it's about choices. Comment below with your own experiences of choosing your real family. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more stories about triumph, truth, and the families we choose for ourselves.